Hello, and thank you for joining us on the QuickBooks for Mac seminar. My name is Jeff Robertson. I'm the Entrepreneurial Advisor here at Davis & Hodgson Associates CPAs in Williston, Vermont. I work with small to mid-sized companies up in Vermont, working on management techniques such as budgeting issues, management reporting issues, employee compensation, incentive-based bonus programs, things of that nature. And today we're going to be talking about QuickBooks for Mac. We're going to primarily focus on whether or not QuickBooks for Mac is right for you and your business. So I'll dive right in. So the first thing we're going to go through is there's 5 different ways to use QuickBooks as a Mac user. We're going to talk about the benefits of using QuickBooks for Mac. We'll go into, is QuickBooks for Mac right for you in your business? Talk a little bit about how you can transfer QuickBooks files from Windows-based QuickBooks to the Mac QuickBooks. We'll talk about how you can interact with your accountant or advisor or bookkeeper as a QuickBooks for Mac user, given the fact that most advisors are PC or Windows based. We'll go through a couple of the basic functions of QuickBooks for Mac, primarily to show you how the interfaces differ or more than likely are quite similar. Alright. In our live presentations, we usually ask how many people are using QuickBooks on PC, on a Mac, or online. Dive right into 5 ways to use QuickBooks if you're a Mac user. First, you can run QuickBooks for Mac on your Mac, as we'll be discussing today. Secondly, you can run QuickBooks for your PC or Windows machine on your Mac using a program called Parallels. There's other programs you can use as well, but basically this allows you to run Windows-based programs on your Mac machine. You can use QuickBooks Online. This is an Intuit product, a QuickBooks product that is online, or some people call it in the cloud. Gets confusing because there is another cloud option, which we'll talk about right now. There are cloud hosting services whereby a hosting service will have a server farm somewhere or server space in a server farm somewhere, and they will host your QuickBooks program or license technically on their machines, or you can buy a license from them, or you can lease a license from them. But the bottom line is it's hosted elsewhere, and you basically will go through a browser or a desktop connection to their servers and access your QuickBooks files on their servers. That's number 4. Number 5 is you can keep an old PC for using QuickBooks. We do have some clients who do this. We're trying to get people away from having a whole extra machine to run their QuickBooks, but people are still doing it. Okay, why QuickBooks for Mac? If you're a Mac user that wants software which looks and feels and is more intuitive, like the Mac software, you'd want to try and go with QuickBooks for Mac. If you need full general ledger accounting, made it easy. Now these are sort of Intuit plugs, but bottom line is if you want to do some basic accounting and you're a Mac user, QuickBooks for Mac may very well be the choice for you. And one thing to note is if you want to organize all your customer, vendor, and employee information in one place, and you're a Mac user, QuickBooks for Mac is useful in that way, and we'll get into that a little bit more in a few minutes. Okay, now QuickBooks for Mac obviously is built for the Mac. They didn't try to amend the Windows-based QuickBooks program and patch it for Mac, they built an entirely new program, which operates in a very similar way, but it really looks like a Mac. Now this picture here is the Windows traditional QuickBooks program, just for your memory. And now we've got the Mac. You can see the top toolbar, you've got your Open Apple, you've got the QuickBooks file edit list company. This is all in the Mac interface, in the Mac format. The icons are a little bit bubblier, more fun, the colors are brighter, more exciting. It's all the fun things about Mac that everybody loves. So you can keep track of important contacts by syncing with your address book. So as I mentioned earlier, you can, with QuickBooks for Mac, you can sync with your address book and have all your contacts, employees, vendors, clients, all in one spot, rather than having them in QuickBooks and then having them somewhere else on your Outlook or whatever it may be. You can protect business critical data up in the iCloud. If you've got a newer Mac, you can run the iCloud and use it to as a backup or for some of your critical data. Now, I don't want to necessarily give an opinion on whether or not iCloud is safe enough to house sensitive data, such as other people's social security numbers, etc. But basic data, reports, depending on what's in your QuickBooks file, what kind of business you have, you can keep your backup up in the cloud. That way, it's available whenever you need it. But again, I do want to throw it out there that you might want to look into the security features of iCloud before putting any sensitive data as opposed to critical data. Okay, you can see important tasks and reminders by syncing your QuickBooks for Mac with your iCalendar, which again is great. So you can get reminders, you can have everything talking to each other, anything that's happening in QuickBooks will come up, give you reminders through your iCalendar, which is great. And finally, Intuit built a free online magazine for QuickBooks for Mac. It's called Little Square, and you can search for it in Google. You can also, I believe, access it through QuickBooks for Mac. But basically, it is a QuickBooks for Mac centric online magazine. As I said, basically it's got a blog, it's got some other information. You can click links for specific questions if they're on there, or you can pose a question to the QuickBooks for Mac community on Little Square. You oftentimes will have professionals who work with QuickBooks for Mac with their clients on there, answering questions, talking, so you can actually get access to professionals in QuickBooks for Mac, get answers from them, pose questions, and start discussions based on problems or questions you may have. Okay, we're going to move on to QuickBooks for Mac versus a PC. And here we've got our PC and Mac guys. You're all familiar with them, I'm sure. Okay, the first item is the Mac version has its own payroll function, which basically runs through the QuickBooks Payroll Online function, whereas QuickBooks for Windows has an internal payroll function, desktop payroll function. The Mac version, you have to use the online payroll. So basically, if you are using the payroll function in QuickBooks for Windows on the desktop, you're going to have to set up a new payroll in the online payroll service that Intuit provides if you want to use it with your Mac. The Mac version does not support online bill pay or funds transfer. This to me is not a deal breaker, as you can do all the fund transfers and payments through your bank. It's actually probably more secure to just do it through your bank. Theoretically, it's only one less place it's going. But it is a bummer for some people, I'm sure. But the bottom line is that, for me, again, it's not a deal breaker because you can do online bill pay through your bank. And not all, maybe not even most, but a lot of banks do connect with QuickBooks for Mac. Not as many as connect with QuickBooks for the PC, but there are quite a few that connect with QuickBooks for Mac, so look into that. You can go onto the QuickBooks for Mac or the Intuit website and find out which institutions, or you can call your institution and find out if they support QuickBooks for Mac. Okay, the Mac version has basic inventory features, but they do not support assemblies or units of measure. So the example would be if you are making, let's say, an iPhone, right? You would using assemblies, you could just click iPhone, and all the different inventory parts that go into making an iPhone would automatically come out of inventory and be accounted for in the QuickBooks program, and boom, you're done. In QuickBooks for Mac, it doesn't support the assemblies function, so therefore you'd have to take each inventory piece and allocate it to that particular sale or product you're producing. So, as I mentioned earlier, if you're doing basic inventory functions, QuickBooks for Mac is okay. If you're doing somewhat sophisticated functions, it's not going to work. Units of measure, the best example I have of that is food. If you have to put a certain number of ounces of a particular input into a product, QuickBooks for Mac will not support those units of measure, those ounces or fluid ounces or whatever it is you may be using to make your final product. Mac only supports a single currency. So if you are taking payments, sending payments, those kinds of things in various foreign currencies, QuickBooks for Mac will not support that, whereas QuickBooks for Windows will. Okay, you cannot migrate from QuickBooks Enterprise to QuickBooks for Mac. This should not be a problem for most people. QuickBooks Enterprise is generally for larger companies, but if you happen to be on Enterprise, you can't go to QuickBooks for Mac, according to Intuit. Now, I have been reading on Little Square and other areas some workarounds to this problem, but basically at this point, what the consensus is that don't go there. Okay, the PC version can create an accountant's copy. Now, what this basically means in a nutshell, it means that you can create an accountant's copy of your QuickBooks, send it off to your accountant, and you can continue working in your QuickBooks. When the accountant sends the accountant copy back, any entries they put in, things of that nature, will get put into your QuickBooks file without changing anything that you have been doing since you sent them the accountant's copy. Whereas in the Mac version, we'll get into it in a little bit, but in the Mac version, you're just going to have to communicate better with your accountant, and while they're in your computer or while they're working on your file, you're going to have to hold off and not work inside your QuickBooks for Mac. The PC version integrates with add-ons. Now, there's a multitude of add-ons for the PC or Windows version of QuickBooks. There's everything from inventory management to document organization add-ons to project management add-ons. They've got specific add-ons for specific industries. For instance, they've got sort of project type management for HVAC industries, whereby you can manage various aspects of the heating and ventilation business. So whether it's preventative maintenance calls, straight service calls, new installation, things of that nature. There are add-ons. There are many add-ons for the Windows version. There are 0 to very few add-ons at all for the Mac version. That said, given the increasing popularity of apps for the iPhone and other areas, I would have to imagine that down the road there will be a plethora of add-ons for the QuickBooks for Mac. My understanding from Intuit is that QuickBooks for Mac is their largest growing area of the QuickBooks universe. And finally, the PC version supports multiple prices for a single item, which, my example for that would be if you're selling one particular item at retail, and also at wholesale, you'd have an issue with the different pricing with QuickBooks for Mac. Okay, converting your PC file to a Mac file. What you're going to want to do in your PC is go to File up in the left-hand corner. As you can see, go down to Utilities, and then as simple as Copy Company File for QuickBooks Mac. Click on that. Save it to a flash drive, however you like to do it, but you can save it to a flash drive would be my recommendation, and then you can bring it over and put it into your Mac. So the recommended procedure in general, the global procedure for changing from Windows to a Mac. First, I have a caveat that I saw in some of the posts in various areas on the internet related to QuickBooks for Mac changing over from Windows. You may need to disable the password function in your QuickBooks for Windows prior to converting. I saw a few people discussing this issue. Most people were not. We have not had an issue with it here in our offices, to my knowledge, but it was out there. So if you try it, it doesn't work, go back to your Windows, disable the password function, and you can just type that into help or go to, I think it's under File, and go ahead and disable that function prior to backing it up as a Mac file. So you've got your QuickBooks file on a flash drive. You're going to go to QuickBooks for Mac, open up that file from your flash drive. It's a .qbb file. Go to File, Open Company, select the particular file, and voila, there you are. You're going to want to, particularly the first time you do it, the first time you bring your Windows-based QuickBooks data over into Mac, I would recommend confirming the conversion with these two steps. I would first print and report trial balance reports and compare them. There were some discussions online in Little Square about some people having discrepancies with their trial balance when they come over from Windows to Mac, and you might as well figure it out immediately. So right when you do it, print, export trial balances, and compare the ones from your QuickBooks for Mac to your old PC-based QuickBooks. If there's an issue, you can just go in and make a journal entry to correct it. Secondly, I would confirm each bank reconciliation transfer. So again, get the bank reconciliations from QuickBooks, open them up in the Windows QuickBooks, and compare them. So you're comparing the bank reconciliations from your QuickBooks for Mac that you're pulling out, and then the ones from your old Windows version of QuickBooks. And again, you do that at least the first time just to make sure that everything's kosher. Again, I did read a few instances whereby the trial balances were off, and you just figure it out immediately, go in and fix them in the Mac version, and you're off to the races. So in the event that your conversion has left you with damaged data, in addition to if it's not as simple as going in and changing one trial balance, you can attempt to rebuild your data in QuickBooks for Mac. So you select File, go into Utilities, and you will see Rebuild Data, and click on that. Theoretically, rebuilding the data should bring the data back to what it should be. Now, if you have a large file, it's possible this can take a while, so I would maybe recommend doing it when you are going to be away from your desk for multiple hours, or even before you go to bed, kind of thing, where you begin the rebuild and then leave the computer and let it do its thing overnight. There are clear instructions, so once you click Rebuild Data, there'll be clear instructions to tell you how to do it. Okay, accountant collaboration made easy. So there's two recommended options for QuickBooks for Mac users. Again, it's not as convenient as the accountant's copy in the Windows version, but still not a big deal for me. Again, not a deal breaker. First, make a backup copy, and send it over to your accountant. Here at Davis & Hodgson, we've got a secure portal that our clients use, so they just log on, upload their QuickBooks file, and boom, we've got it here, and we download it. then we do what we do. We upload it back, and boom, the client gets notification, and they download theirs, and they're done. Or you can give your accountant access to your computer using LogMeIn or a remote desktop application. So 3 simple steps for the backup option. Option 1. So convert QuickBooks for Mac data file into a format that can be opened in Windows. Now I'm assuming your accountant, financial advisor, bookkeeper is running Windows, but if that's not the case, you don't have to back it up in the Windows version. But so assuming they're using Windows, back it up as a Windows version. Send it to your accountant or financial advisor. As I mentioned, we use the secure portal. Smaller files can be emailed. Once they get to a certain size, though, most places will not accept files that large over straight email. It's also not as secure. So the advisor will make updates to it. They'll convert it back to QuickBooks for Mac format, as we just saw, and they're going to send it back to you any way you decide works best for you. And then all you do is go ahead and open it up in your QuickBooks for Mac, and you're ready to roll. So here's how you back it up to a Windows file in QuickBooks for Mac. Go to File, back up to QuickBooks for Windows. Boom, done. Save it to wherever you save it. You can save it to a zip drive, or you can save it however you want, depending on how you're going to bring it in. But save it in a good spot. Put a date on it so everybody knows what day it was created on, and then get it to your accountant in one of the ways recommended. The other option is sort of have your accountant access your computer remotely. We use a service called LogMeIn. Now, I would recommend talking to whoever you're going to be collaborating with and find out if they use a different service, and they may be already set up. But if not, I would recommend LogMeIn. You're going to register. You got to go into LogMeIn. Here's the website. You can go to logmein.com. It'll bring you to the securelogmein.com site. You're going to have to install their software onto your Mac, and it's very easy. You just go in, it says Mac or PC, boom, Mac. You install it on your computer. Then you're going to have to provide your accountant or bookkeeper or advisor with appropriate credentials. They're going to have to get it on their computer, obviously, so that you guys can talk. Give them access to your computer. And then the key is going to be here, you're going to want to communicate with your accountant for both of these, whether you're giving your accountant a backup copy through a portal on a flash drive, however you get it to them, or whether you're using this remote access. You're going to need to communicate with your accountant. With the remote access, the bottom line is they're going to be getting on your computer. So you need to make sure you're not using it for something critical when they decide to get on. So bottom line is communicate with them, find out when they think they're going to want to get on, and just make sure that time's going to work for you and that they'll have enough time on the computer where you don't have to get on to do something else. Same thing goes with giving your accountant a backup copy. I would find out when they want to be doing the work. Accountants are usually pretty darn organized, and they will generally know approximately what day and normally what time they're going to be doing something. So just communicate with them. Make sure you can get them your information. Ideally, there'll be some sort of portal, as I mentioned. They can get your information, work on it for 2 hours, whatever it takes, and get it back to you, so you won't have much downtime at all. So we're going to go into some basic functions now, just primarily so you can see the interface, how it works. For those of you that used QuickBooks for Windows, you'll see that it's quite similar, it just looks and feels better. So generating invoices. So here's the interface. Again, you've got all your toolbar across the top, Mac style. You got your icons and your home page. There's 3 ways to generate invoices, just like there is in the Windows version. You can go to Customers up here, click on that drop-down list, select Create Invoices. You can go to that Invoices button right there. Click on that, or you can click on this Create Invoices button. All 3 of these techniques will bring you right to the invoice, which is quite similar to the Windows QuickBooks invoice function. So you can put in customer jobs, you can put in classes, start typing in bill to, your client should pop up, the item, same thing should pop up. It's all the same, basically, as the Windows version. Now we'll just briefly look at receiving payments. Again, click on customers, drop down list will come down, click on receive payments, or you can go to this receive payments button in the home page. Either one of those will bring you to this customer payment function. You can, again, it's very similar to the old. You go in, you put the amount, payment method, check number if applicable, and then your outstanding invoices should pop up, and you can just check them off. Now, one thing you want to remember, and this goes for everybody, everybody who's been doing this a little while will have done this, I'm sure, where you put the wrong account to deposit to. So here you can just select the account to deposit to, or if you're going to use the undeposited funds function, you click the button above deposit to where it says group with other undeposited funds, and it'll go into the undeposited funds account. But again, very similar, same idea as the Windows version, basically the same functionality. Some new functions starting in 2012. You can set default accounts. What you're going to do is you're going to go to QuickBooks, then go to Preferences, select Checks, or you can type out default accounts in the search bar. You're going to set the defaults for writing checks, paying bills, paying sales taxes, and make deposits. Here's the screen that'll come up. You can see it says checks on top. The default accounts to use in these forms, you can check on all these accounts, write checks, pay bills, pay sales tax, make deposits. Then you go ahead and select the account that the money's going to go to or from. And voila, you have it there. Now, for every time you go to pay sales tax, bills, write checks, make deposits, the account will already be there when you open up that screen. And this is just nice. We all know that it can be quite easy to select the wrong account. I had a client who was receiving payments to the wrong account, so he would send out invoices. Those would go out. He would receive payments. He was making deposits to the wrong account. So he's receiving payments, wasn't making the deposits. Then when he made the deposits, he was making them as if they were new sales. So they had double the revenue showing in their QuickBooks as they actually had when we met last time. When I first saw that, I said, okay, you're buying lunch this time because you guys obviously did really well. And he said, no. This is obviously before I actually looked at the QuickBooks. I just went and looked at the P&L quick and noticed the different income level. But anyway, so this will be helpful, help you decrease mistakes and just make things easier. So that'll basically do it. In conclusion, we talked about 5 ways to use Macs with QuickBooks. Mac users get to stay in the familiar and better Mac interface, in my opinion. QuickBooks for Mac is a good choice for most small to mid-sized companies, not all, but most. Accountants or advisors can work in QuickBooks for Mac quite easily, and we went through some basic functions. And that'll do it. I want to thank you for joining me today, reviewing this seminar, and please feel free to contact us if you have any questions. And keep a lookout for more seminars. We'll be continuing to post seminars on our website. The seminars we're conducting in-house here, I'm going to record them after we do them, so we should be going forward having more and more free tools for people to use related to finances. Thank you very much.